Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Higher or Lower, brought to you by oddschecker, brought to you by SpreadX, brought to you by Sporting Index. This is the show where we look ahead to the weekend's football and look at the spread betting markets and say if we think the eventual results will be higher or lower than the midpoint. I'm your host, George Ellick. To my right is Dan Worth.
Hello.
To my left is Jack Wright.
Hi.
Hi. Whoa, fingers.
Yeah, 2 of them.
That's a bit lame, I'd say. Yeah.
Lame.
The whole like, woi. Yeah. What do you think?
I'm staying out of it, man. I want to have a happy show. We can all be friends.
And you're not here next week.
I know. So this is my penultimate show this season.
Oh, no. Okay. What a shame.
Yeah. It is a bit of a shame. I mean, holidays also are okay too for me. But
Where are you going?
I'm going to Portugal.
Wow.
Weather's not amazing, sunny, but not boiling hot, and I really want a boiling hot holiday.
Do you know what?
I seem to be avoiding it.
I was in Portugal end of March. The forecast was like, early 20s. It's hotter out there.
Sweet. Well, that's exactly the same for me then.
Sun's stronger.
Perfect.
Outside the sun, quite chilly, but in the sun, you'll think it's hotter than it is.
It's a jacket, but
Not in the sun.
not in the sun.
Insane.
Sweat it all out. Need to lose a bit of weight.
I was in Wales next sea at the weekend. It was quite chilly.
Yeah.
Okay, right. On that note, also be careful with sweating it out. You might get a fine. Sweat jacket. It's a boxing gag.
Yeah, fine.
Thank you.
Oh, you really are a master of all sports, George.
Yep. Right. It's playoff time, and this should be a show to concentrate on the EFL playoffs. We're only doing one, sadly, and that is the game on Friday night between Frank Lampard's Coventry and Sunderland at Coventry Championship Play-off first leg semi-final. Coventry are the favourites of SpreadX for this game in 90 minutes, I should say. 0.2 is the midpoint, so 0.1 to sell, 0.3 to buy. So this is a sell would be Sunderland or draw. A lower would be Sunderland draw. A higher would be Coventry to win the game. 3, 2, 1.
Bam.
I mean, this is obvious, isn't it?
It's obvious, George.
Can you tell me why?
Coventry are better than Sunderland. I think they'll win the game. I think this is a perfect game to test some theories in that you should go into the playoffs with a bit of momentum, kind of last day of the season to guarantee that place. And Coventry did. They obviously secured their place in the playoffs with that victory over Middlesbrough. What I like about Coventry, of course, we look back. You mentioned Frank Lampard's Coventry. It's a little bit of a quip. And
Yeah.
I'm
glad you got it.
I know. Sharp as a tack, man. Sharp as a tack. But over the time that he's been at the club, they've secured the 4th most amount of points in that time frame. Only the top 3, which have been kind of clear all season, have more. Sunderland are 6 in that respect, in that time frame, 9 points lower in the table. And they've, of course, had a terrible end to the season. They secured their playoff place with a 0-0 draw at Norwich. Tough place to go, of course, to win, to get that place. And since then, have lost 5 on the spin. So, really poor form. And they say, can you press pause on your performances? Or we'll rest, we'll rotate, we'll keep people fresh, we'll then go again. And then just go, right, now we need to go and find that competitive edge again, find that extra percentage or 2 that's going to get us over the line. I don't think they can. So, yeah, I'm happy, especially on home soil for Coventry to take the win here. They obviously won the reverse fixture 3-0. And I think with Coventry, they've just got the firepower to outmanoeuvre Sunderland in this one, especially in this first leg. So I think they win the tie and get to the final. But we're talking about the first leg here, of course, and I think they win it.
Yeah, me too. There are 2 ways of looking at this. Firstly, Sunderland have lost 5 games in a row heading into this. They've only scored like 3 goals in about 3 months. There was an interesting moment where it felt like there was no reason to really worry because Régis Lebris was picking, rotating players out, very much had his focus on the playoffs. And then they lost 3 games in a row and he came out after the 1-0 defeat against Blackburn and was like, right, enough of that. We're going to play our strongest team and we're going to take this seriously. They lost 2-0 to Oxford, so they lost 1-0 to QPR on the back of that, which I think was stupid from him because it's just kind of invited on unnecessary pressure. Yeah. By all means, send out your better teams, but don't put the pressure on them to perform, I don't think.
Yeah, agreed.
Having said that, there's every chance that Sunderland, this was like a pre-season, effectively. And one of my biggest beliefs in football is that pre-season results just do not matter. Like people who get excited or bet off the back of pre-season results and performances in pre-season
are poor.
Absolute mugs game. Yeah. Like it's a different sport basically. And there's every chance that as soon as they cross that white line on Friday night, it's a completely different Sunderland side. I think. Like, I'm not saying I think that's going to happen, but I think that could happen because suddenly, against QPR and Oxford, what's the priority? Not getting injured.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, then probably your performance as a player is going to change. So there's every chance that's going to be the case. But even if that is the case, I really fancy Coventry. Like, Coventry's home form has been so good now for a long time. If you go back to mid-November, they've only lost 2 home league games. Those were against Champions Leeds and team who were knocked off the perch in injury time on goal difference, Burnley. So the only 2 teams they've lost to are Leeds and Burnley. From an attacking perspective, they are relentlessly good at home. Like, scored 2 against Borough and West Brom in their last 2 games. 2 teams trying to get into the playoffs. Put 3 past Sunderland in this tie back in mid-March. Yeah. The home advantage is a big deal in playoffs, and there's every chance, I think, that Sunderland now, if you offered them a 1-goal deficit going back to the Stadium of Light, would take it. And therefore, I think Coventry. I'm so strong on backing Coventry to win this game in 90.
You mentioned they haven't scored at all really over the last couple of months. Do Isidore lead the line?
I'd have thought so, yeah, but he's like woefully out of form.
No goal in 13. Yeah. I wrote a piece on him earlier in the season actually, where he was. This is a theme for him. He's had a brilliant start at 2 or 3 clubs he's been at, and then just completely fallen away. So much so that he had a loan spell that produced a permanent signing from him like last season, and then he just didn't feature, and that's how he ended up at Sunderland. So yeah, I think that's a problem for him, in contrast to what Coventry have got.
So that's a brief overview, Dan. What do you think?
Yeah.
I mean, there's no point in me even inputting at all here. 2 EFL experts here.
It's another great Danism.
You can use that one if you like.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I think it, like, as a non-EFL expert, I would just say it comes down to the form that both these teams are going in. And I've said this maybe last week or the week before. Teams that go into the playoffs out of form generally don't do well, whether they finish 3rd or not. And I know you disagree with me, but you're agreeing with me here, so let's move on.
Yeah, let's just ignore Southampton last season, eh? Right, let's move on now to the Premier League, the great league that is the Premier League. Right, next up into the Premier League, where we've got Bournemouth hosting Aston Villa. Total goals, I feel like we would do Bournemouth total goals quite a lot, and we're doing it again. Total goals here, 3.2 is the midpoint with SpreadX, 3.1 to sell, 3.3 to buy. 3, 2, 1. Yeah, I don't love it, if I'm honest. But Bournemouth are a side who we saw have a kind of mid-season slump to an extent. I think they are starting to perform better now. Like, we saw them beat Arsenal last time out, and again they finished 2-1. Yes, their last 4 games all finished under 3 goals. But that's the kind of streak that I'm willing to get against, frankly. And Aston Villa continue to be a side that where goals follow them around. They continue to be a team, and they always will be under Emery, where attacking threat is their key kind of the way that they approach games. We've seen them score 3 on the road against Southampton and Brighton recently, albeit both of those finished 3-0. This is a Bournemouth side who basically always carry an attacking threat against a Villa side that always carry an attacking threat. And I even though the trends seem to say that both finished just under 3, I'd see no reason here why this shouldn't be a relatively end-to-end game. Dan, why are you going lower?
Well, I just think now that, it has been for a while to be fair, but with the top 7 being so tight and Villa still there or thereabouts, this is a pretty big game for them. Bournemouth, not so much. They're like just below now and probably can't really make it. I don't think it's actually mathematically possible, is it, to get in the top 7?
Bit of fun in the sun then, eh?
But yeah, 8th could be a European place. Like, if
everything
works out, it could well be a place. So it's worth getting.
God, we get all the European places, don't we? Reading will be in it. Maybe not. Yeah. But I just think as a result of Villa really needing to win this, it could be a little bit tetchy. Bournemouth have obviously scored well at home this season, 2nd highest total of any team in the league behind Liverpool. But Villa have only scored 23 goals on the road this season. 6 teams have scored fewer. I kind of just see this as a sort of 1-0 to Villa, really. Which obviously you disagree with. Yeah. But it was 1-1 here last time out. So
irrelevant.
Why would it not be the same?
Between these 2 teams? So you just imagine if football betting was that easy. Well, these 2 teams played last season. This will happen. That's bound to happen again. Right, Jack.
Yeah, we do get Bournemouth quite a lot, and we do get them at home. And I do have for the last few games, I've followed the same trend of going lower, and it's generally paid off. I think if this game was at Villa Park, I'd probably actually go higher. I think there's more chance there, and the stats suggest that as well. Bournemouth scored 21 in 16 at home. That includes 5 versus Nottingham Forest. So take that out of the equation. They've struggled. They've only scored more than 1 goal, and that was that game in one of their last 12 at home. Scored 34 away, so prefer that style, it seems. And Villa flipped around 23 away goals versus 32 at home. As far as Bournemouth's defence, I think, is the real strong point here. This is the real surprising thing. I've brought it up a few times in the past, but only Liverpool and Forest have conceded fewer than Bournemouth's 15 at home this season. Obviously, the line we're looking at here, if you're looking at fixed odds, is under 3.5 goals. 15 of their 17 at home this season have gone under 3.5, so lower. 13 of the last 14 and all of the last 6, that Forest game being the one that obviously was the stopper point there. And Villa have got to tighter defensively. 3 clean sheets in the last 4 on the road. They won 1-0 last week, and I think it's got to that point where they are a little bit tired. It's been a long, emotional season for them, and I think they're looking to maybe get over the line, get into that top 5, but it's kind of more of a grind than what we have seen over the course of the season. 10 of the last 12 on the road have gone under, and it was 1-1 in the reverse fixture earlier this season. So, a lower for me.
Okay, on to the next game in the running order. Newcastle hosting Chelsea. Total goal minutes is the market with this one. Really interesting game this, because currently Newcastle and Chelsea both sit on 63 points, having played 35 games, with a goal difference of 21. Newcastle only above them on goals scored, sitting in 4th and 5th. So, the only caveat to this is that normally this would be a massive game to get in the top 4. But, it seems like the top 5 is basically enough this season. So, albeit, there'll be some qualification quirks or something, I guess, within this.
And Chelsea do play Forest on the last game of the season, who are the team in 6th.
There we go. We're looking at total goal minutes here. 166.5 is the midpoint. 158 to sell. 173 to buy. 3, 2, 1. Yes.
All in.
Snap man down.
Goals. So you've already taken all of the top 4 chat that they're on the same points and everything like that. And I know that 5th place will mean Champions League, but I still think the old-fashionedness of it all, people want to finish in the top 4, right? I know the ultimate game is to get the Champions League, but I do think both teams will still be looking to finish in that top 4. You want to finish as high as possible, right?
Always.
Both teams struck late at the weekend, and actually...
Apart from in a downhill running race.
I've already forgotten what I said, but yeah.
You want to finish as high as possible.
Yeah, okay, fine. That's really quick. You're surprising me today.
Thank you.
What was I going to say? Oh, and another surprise was that Chelsea managed to play okay against Liverpool and win, as you predicted.
Yeah. I should have said skiing slalom, thinking about it. But
well, there is that in the Winter Olympics, the uphill skiing.
That's
So
where you definitely want
to,
but downhill, because I guess we fall over in the downhill slalom and your race is over, your race is run, you're quite high up on the mountain.
Highboard diving, you kind of want to finish quite low as well.
Sorry,
yes,
no one wants to hear this.
Everyone else. Put in the comments below. What do you think? What is the best place to finish low?
Yeah.
Right. I think there's going to be goals.
Cool.
Yeah.
Are we going to mention last week's Chelsea-Liverpool game?
I said it.
Thank you. Right.
Do you know, if we recorded this last night, I was going lower. I was
Right.
only on the train on the way in this morning that I had a sudden change of heart, and I scrubbed that out. Look, even in ink, higher. So yeah, massive game. And the main driver for me that's changed my mind is that I think the longer this goes on, if it's level, the positions become more relevant. That it's going to be, so we're 4th and 5th. Shall we take what we've got? But this is at Newcastle. This is at St James's Park. They tend to score plenty of goals there, and they tend to score early. And I think what this does need, although we're looking for high-end minutes, is an early goal to open the game up and see both teams come into the fore and attacking, which then would mean at least one of these sides is pushing for a late goal, really, regardless of which one of them is. So, as far as Newcastle, the last game to go under this total, lower than this total, or midpoint, was Wolves in January. That's 8 games ago, and that game ended with 165 minutes. So, just half under. So, yeah, we're there or thereabouts, aren't we? And Chelsea's games against the top sides in the league, obviously they've not played Newcastle yet, they've not played Nottingham Forest yet, that's to come. 2-1 against Liverpool, 3-1 against Manchester City, 2-1 against Aston Villa. Tends to be goals and at both ends. The only anomaly to that was Arsenal 1-0, but that's kind of what the song was made for, wasn't it? So I'm going higher, because I do think that early goal will make this game a lot more open.
Lovely stuff. Yeah, I mean, this is a purely game state thing for me. Like, obviously, you can look at the goal records of both, and you can say that, you know, following the trends, especially with Newcastle. But this is also just a case where, given they're completely level in every single facet apart from goals scored, regardless of what the scoreline is, like, it just plays into the hands of late goals, because either one team's going to be chasing the game, or they're going to be level, and both teams are going to be going hammer and tongue for the win. So even if it's a low-scoring affair, you know, if it's 1 or 2, I mean, 1 goal would obviously be bad, but 2 goals even, I think there's every chance they come very late in the game, given the game state and the way the game starts and what's at stake. So yeah, very much in agreement with you both about this. Nottingham Forest versus Leicester next up. Total goals as the market here, 3.05 is the midpoint for Sporting Index, 2.95 to sell, 3.15 to buy. 3, 2, 1. This is easy, isn't it?
It appears to be so, yeah.
Tell us why.
I just don't think there's going to be that many goals in it.
Leicester can't score. Forest are very good at defending.
Yeah. Well, you told them instead of me, so that's fine. But it's
Done.
pretty
No,
much
no,
right,
and
yeah.
then you know, that's me done.
Yeah. Well, since that 7-0 against Brighton, it's been a lot tighter at the City ground, hasn't it? And I think that's just because they're suddenly down the home straight and looking to try and get over the line. Looked like they were going to get one of those Champions League places. They're now at the key part of the season. They're out of them. Few injuries affecting them as well. They're not quite looking as good as they have been. But this is a massive game. Obviously, it's a local derby as well. So this is a game that Leicester can get up for with nothing else to play for across the season. It's been a terrible campaign. Obviously, off the back of a rare win. But so not only was it a rare win, it was a rare time for them to actually score. They only scored 2 in the last 12 of 2 of the last 12 league games. So. Yeah, I agree. We're looking for Forest to do the heavy lifting here. Can I see him scoring 4 or 5? No, not really. So, the fact that we need 4 for this to be higher means that to get 0, 1, 2 and 3 onside, it's got to be the way forward.
Excellent. Yeah, Dan?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Forest have been way less prolific of late, and you already hit the nail on the head. Leicester just do not score. Only once in the last 12 Leicester games have both teams scored as a result, largely, of Leicester not scoring. So I think if I'm basically ruling out half of the teams in this game to not score, needing 4 is a little bit of a worry. It's an interesting market, because obviously if I was buying and selling, having to sell at 2.95 would probably worry me slightly, but that extra 0.1 is doing all the hard work.
Yeah, it really is.
So I think you've got to be lower.
Yeah. I mean, basically, for this to be a loser, you've got to have a whole goal. Effectively. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I point my fingers at the question master here. Question master.
Yeah.
Giving us an easy one.
Yeah. We hope.
Well, an easy one to call. I might be wrong. So on to Liverpool versus Arsenal now. Liverpool fresh off that defeat against Chelsea. Who could have predicted that?
Only a genius.
Only a genius. Favourites Chelsea. Against an Arsenal side who, gotta think, are going to be mentally and physically pretty fatigued after being knocked out in Paris of the Champions League on Wednesday night, put in a brilliant performance, full of energy, just unable to finish their dinner when their dinner was served, unlike their opponents who were able to do so. Liverpool are the favourites here. 0.35 is the midpoint, 0.25 to sell, 0.45 to buy. 3, 2, 1.
Yeah, I don't love this at all, because obviously Anfield is going to be rocking. Liverpool going to want to bounce back from the defeat to Chelsea. But I think this is going to be a draw, and I know that's not necessarily the shrewdest play here, because, well, maybe it is.
Of course it could be.
Maybe it is. Maybe it is the shrewdest play. But I don't really see Arsenal.
For the first time ever, I put up a draw last week.
Ever?
Yeah, on our pod, and I won.
What made you do that?
Bristol City Preston. I thought there was every chance that a draw would be good enough for both teams. And it was. Well, it was 2-0 at one point.
Fair enough. Well, maybe I'm going for a similar rationale here, and a draw is good enough for both teams. I just think, like, it's going to be a party atmosphere for sure. But again, Arsenal are going to want to bounce back.
Thomas Partey.
I don't want him. on my name.
Nope.
It's like the fourth market where I've forgotten what I'm actually saying. It's going to be a draw.
Okay. Jack.
Yeah, there will be celebratory mode at Arsenal, at Anfield. And so I think that's a key element here. It is at Anfield. They rested and rotated. I think it was a bit like Arne Slot said, right, we're going to have one game where after the celebrations, after the highs, we're going to rotate. We're going to, not be at our best. And they weren't against Chelsea at all, were they? This time I think we'll see more of a usual Liverpool side. Luis Diaz was rested for that one, didn't play at all, did he? So expect him probably to come back into the side. And they've obviously got players as well. I'm looking at you, Mo Salah, that are still absolutely driven for their own personal records that they're looking for. He has a phenomenal record against Arsenal as well. So the thing that you said there was absolutely bang on, is how much energy that Arsenal expended in that game against PSG, and that's the key element here. What have they got to play for? It's very, very likely they're going to finish in the top 5. They might well go into this one, probably will go into this one outside the top 2 for the first time for a while, but even so, to try and get themselves back up for this will be extremely difficult at an Anfield, who will always want to beat Liverpool, will always want to beat Arsenal, won't they? So I think they will. They've won 14, they're 17 in the league at home, and that includes each of the last 7. So I think they'll want to extend that run and keep the locals happy.
Yeah, for sure. I think Liverpool want to bounce back from what happened at Chelsea. As you say, it's much easier to be rolled away from home in their position. I think when you're at home, your fans kind of keep you up to account a little bit, and any hangover, metaphorical or literal, I think, from the Chelsea game probably has seeped by now against an Arsenal side who played midweek and must be knackered and must be quite upset and distraught as to what happened. I thought Lewis Skelly looked poor on Wednesday night and was taken off early. Saka missed that massive opportunity. We know that he's very resilient, but whether he's going to be in the kind of place to impact games the way that we know he can, I'm not entirely sure. It seems to me, this is one where I'm pretty confident.
A lot of question marks about the Arsenal side, aren't there?
For sure.
So physically, and also, will he rotate heavily? And there's a good chance he will. So.
Yes. Right, time for naps. Jack, we'll come to you first. What is your best bet of the weekend elsewhere?
Okay, I was successful last week in a market I hadn't played previously. It was the mini performance market. I went from Norwich, of course, to win well, and they did. So this week I'm going across the border from Norfolk to Suffolk. I'm going for Ipswich versus Brentford in the same market. Brentford mini performance, the midpoint is 31.5. I am going high here, so reminder, 15 points for win, 5 points for the draw, and the crucial one here probably is goals. You get 10 points per goal scored. Also 5 for a clean sheet, minus 15 for a red card. So I just feel that Brentford are in a great spot at this moment in time. They're excellent on the road, and Ipswich, having been pretty competitive for certainly the first half of the season, look like they might buck that trend and be a promoted side that stays up, have fallen away, and probably understandably so. They put a lot of effort into that initial first half, as I said, of the season. Since then, at home have been absolutely terrible. They've lost their last 7 on the spin at Portman Road. They've conceded an average just under 3.5 goals per game in that period of time as well. At least 2 goals in each of those games, which realistic is all we're needing here. And the key element is, I've looked at Brentford's performances. You look at their away record at the moment. They've won 6 of their last 8 on the road. 2 non-wins in that was a defeat at Newcastle and a draw at Arsenal, so no shame in either of those really. But they played Southampton and Leicester, the other 2 relegated sides, in that sequence. They beat Southampton 5-0 and they beat Leicester 4-0. So I'm going for a similar thing here for an Ipswich side that have kind of opened up a bit, I think, over the last couple of weeks, using the players that they're likely to still be at the club come next season. Lovely stuff. Dan, best bet? I'm going to Ipswich versus Brentford. Yes! You're buying Ipswich mini performance. Imagine that would be great, wouldn't it? No, but I'm buying total goals at 3.3, largely for all of the reasons that Jack just mentioned. I think Brentford are in great form in front of goal, and they're coming up against an Ipswich side that are shipping goals at the moment. They've conceded over 2.5 all of their last 7 Premier League games, which obviously bodes quite nicely here. I think Brentford will come here and just have their way, to be perfectly honest. But Ipswich can get involved too if they fancy. They've scored in 4 of their last 6.
And the two that they blanked in are the two that you mentioned, Arsenal and Newcastle, in which they were down to 10 men after half an hour in both. 4-3 in the reverse fixture. That would be absolutely lovely if we could get a similar scoreline here. Big profit. Yeah, for both of us.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I'll take a 4-3 win. Absolutely right. Yeah, that win.
Okay, I'm doing mini performance.
Oh, wow.
You've started something here.
Dovetailed.
In League 2, playoffs, Chesterfield, Walsall. I'm buying Chesterfield mini performance at 23.5. Chesterfield, the only reason that they didn't finish higher in the league this season is because they had some chronic injury issues at the turn of the year. They've been in a rampant form coming into the playoffs. Unlike Walsall, who've won 3 games since mid-January. They thought they'd been promoted. They were undone with a 96th minute goal from Bradford. Teams who generally don't go up in that fashion tend to struggle in the playoffs. We saw Northampton, who thought they were promoted when their game finished 3 seasons ago, saw Bristol Rovers score a 7th goal, and then they got knocked out by Mansfield over 2 legs in the playoffs. Accrington a few years ago thought they'd gone up. Bristol Rovers scored late. Darryl Clark started crying on the pitch, and Accrington were knocked out over 2 legs after that. Stockport, similar story 2 seasons ago. They lost in the final, having snuck through, but were pretty poor in the semis. If Walsall do this, if they bounce back from what they've been through, having squandered a 12-point lead at the top of the table, I'll be fuming. Having had a 17-point lead over Bradford flipped from mid-Jan, and Matt Sadler and his players deserve immense credit, even though I think Walsall fans would still want him sacked. But yeah, for me, there's a fair chance here, and I wouldn't put you off doing things like buying Chesterfield supremacy, buying Chesterfield goals, because there's a fair chance if Chesterfield come out the traps early and put Walsall to the sword, I think it could get really, really ugly, and I think Walsall could just roll. So, yeah, mini performance is the way I'm playing this, but there'll be a few markets that I'll probably look to attack.
Nice. When's that game?
Sunday. 3:30.
Lovely.
Yeah. Not like it's clashing with any other big games, is it?
Nah.
I wouldn't have thought. No, Liverpool and Arsenal, so fine.
Yeah.
Right, there we go. That brings this episode of Higher or Lower to a close. Thank you very much for taking the time to watch. Make sure you sign up for a Sporting Index or Spreadex account if you haven't already got one. Link is in the show description. Remember, T's and C's do apply, and losses can exceed your initial deposit. And there's a new customer offer there waiting for you as well. Oddschecker have you covered for all your fixed odds betting needs. WhoScored.com for all of your stats research into all the football. This is Dan. Thank you. This is Jack. Thank you.
Thank you. See you next week.
See you next week. Have a great holiday.
Try
and get some kind of a haircut before you go.
Yeah,
because
I'm desperate.
It's looking a bit like this thing on my jumper. Enjoy the football, guys. Have a great weekend. We're back next week, or Jack and I will be at least. Please ensure that you're gambling responsibly.